Sometimes, the quietest rooms hold the loudest betrayals. I've always believed that words are like feathers carried by the wind. Once they leave your mouth, you can never gather them back. I sat at that long, rustic wooden table in the lakeside cottage, lifting a porcelain teacup to my lips, breathing in the scent of chamomile and pine. To anyone looking through the window, we were the picture of an idyllic, blending family. But underneath the soft clinking of silverware, a storm was brewing, and they had no idea I could see the clouds. My name is Evelyn, and at 52, I've learned that life has a way of testing your grace when you least expect it. My son, Alex, who is 26, is the center of my world. For the past 2 years, Alex has been completely devoted to Jordan. Jordan is 25, a quiet, hard-working soul with a laugh that fills a room, though she often keeps her head down, trying too hard to please everyone around her. Alex and Jordan recently got engaged, and my heart swelled with a mother's pride. Jordan's family, the DuPonts, are wealthy, sophisticated, and elite. They own a beautiful, secluded summer cottage up north, and they invited us for a weekend getaway to celebrate the engagement. I wanted everything to be perfect. I even wore my favorite silk scarf, a souvenir from my youth spent studying linguistics in Paris, a detail about my past that Alex always forgot to mention, and one that Jordan's parents never bothered to ask about. To them, I was just a simple, retired school teacher from the suburbs. The first couple of days at the cottage were pleasant on the surface, but I began to notice small, unsettling shifts in the atmosphere. Jordan's mother, Celine, and her older sister, Chloe, had a strange way of looking at Jordan when Alex wasn't in the room. It wasn't a look of affection, it was a cold, evaluating stare. During breakfast on Saturday, Jordan accidentally spilled a few drops of coffee on the linen tablecloth. The way Celine's posture immediately stiffened, and the sharp, collective sigh that came from her and Chloe, made the room feel instantly colder. Jordan's hands began to tremble as she apologized, her cheeks flushing a deep crimson. Alex was out on the deck fixing the grill, completely oblivious. When Jordan excused herself to go to the restroom, I saw Celine lean over to Chloe and whisper something, a tight, mocking smirk playing on her lips. I couldn't catch the words, but the heavy tension in the air made my stomach twist with an uneasy suspicion. They weren't just proud people, they were hiding a deep-seated resentment toward their own blood. By evening, the suspicion turned into a heartbreaking reality. Alex had gone into town to pick up some firewood, and Jordan went down to the dock to watch the sunset, seeking a moment of peace. I was resting in the small library adjacent to the main dining room, the door slightly ajar. The heavy velvet curtains kept me hidden in the shadows. That's when I heard Celine and Chloe walk into the dining room, pouring themselves glasses of wine. Suddenly, they switched from English to fluent, rapid French, their voices dripping with a sharp, venomous malice they had hidden behind polite smiles all weekend. They spoke with a casual cruelty that made my blood run cold. Celine laughed, a sharp, brittle sound, as she told Chloe in French that Jordan was finally fulfilling her only usefulness to the family. "She's lucky that boy is foolish enough to love her," Celine sneered, her accent flawless but her words hideous. Once the wedding papers are signed, we can finally transfer the remaining debt of the estate into her name through the trust, and his family will absorb the financial ruin without even realizing it. She has always been our little sacrificial lamb. Chloe chimed in, giggling as she poured more wine. I almost feel bad for Alex. He thinks he's marrying a sweet, innocent girl, but he's actually marrying our financial shield. And his mother? That simple woman wouldn't know a legal loophole if it hit her in the face. Every word pierced through me like a shard of glass. They weren't just looking down on Jordan, they were actively setting a trap to ruin my son and destroy Jordan's future, using her vulnerability as their weapon. They truly believed their language was a vault, completely unaware that I understood every syllable, every inflection, and every dark motive. My hands gripped the edge of the armchair so tightly my knuckles turned white. I forced myself to breathe through the sudden rush of adrenaline, counting the seconds to keep my composure. I couldn't scream. I couldn't break down. Auntie May always says that anger makes you sloppy, but a quiet mind makes you strategic. I stayed in the shadows until their footsteps faded down the hallway. When Alex returned with the firewood, laughing and shaking the evening chill from his jacket, my heart ached looking at his bright, innocent smile. I knew I couldn't just tell him. If I simply repeated what I heard, Celine and Chloe would deny it, call me paranoid, and turn it into a bitter feud that would tear Alex and Jordan apart. I needed them to expose themselves in a language everyone understood. The next afternoon was the grand farewell luncheon. The long table was laden with roasted meats, fine wines, and delicate pastries. Jordan sat quietly next to Alex, her eyes tracking her mother's subtle, disapproving nods, adjusting her posture like a frightened child. Celine raised her glass, offering a beautifully manicured toast in English about family unity, love, and the bright future ahead for the young couple. Alex beamed, raising his glass in return, completely captivated by the illusion. As the applause died down, I wiped my mouth with my napkin, set it neatly on the table, and looked directly into Celine's eyes. The room grew still. I leaned forward, the warmth entirely gone from my face, and addressed Celine and Chloe directly. But I didn't speak in English. In flawless, elegant, and icy French, I said, "It is truly fascinating how much a mother can despise her own daughter. Jordan is a treasure, but you treat her like a shield for your own financial failures." The silence that followed was suffocating. Celine's wine glass rattled against her plate, her face draining of color until she looked like a ghost. Chloe choked on her drink, her eyes widening in sheer terror as she stared at me. They froze, completely paralyzed by the realization that their dark secret had been stripped bare in front of everyone. Alex looked between me and Celine, confusion wrinkling his brow. Mom? What did you just say? I didn't know you spoke French. I kept my gaze locked on Celine, watching her chest rise and fall in shallow, panicked breaths. Switching smoothly back to English, my voice remained calm, steady, and unyielding. I was just telling Celine how interesting it is that they plan to transfer their family's massive estate debts into Jordan's name through the wedding trust. I was reflecting on how they called Jordan a sacrificial lamb, and laughed about how our family would absorb their financial ruin. Jordan let out a sharp, ragged gasp, her eyes darting to her mother. Mom, is that true? Is that why you suddenly pushed for this specific trust agreement? Celine stammered, her sophisticated facade completely shattering. She's lying. She's misinterpreting our words, she doesn't understand, I understand perfectly, Celine, I interrupted, my voice dropping an octave, carrying the heavy weight of a mother's protection. I spent 4 years studying linguistics in Paris. I understood every single word you and Chloe said in the dining room last night. You underestimate the people around you because you think wealth makes you superior. But greed has made you careless. The truth was out, raw and undeniable. Alex's expression shifted from confusion to a deep, protective anger. He looked at the legal documents sitting on the side table, papers Celine had pressured them to sign before the weekend ended. Without a word, Alex reached over, took the contract, and tore it cleanly down the middle. He stood up, pulling Jordan gently but firmly to her side. The wedding is still happening, Alex said, his voice trembling with a mixture of betrayal and resolve. But you will not be there. And you will never touch our lives, or Jordan's future, ever again. Jordan broke down, tears streaming down her face, but for the first time, they weren't tears of fear, they were tears of liberation. The heavy chains of her family's emotional manipulation had finally broken. We left the cottage that very hour, leaving Celine and Chloe alone in their beautiful, empty house, trapped under the crushing weight of their own financial deceit and public shame. Word travels fast in their social circles, and soon, the elite community they valued so much learned exactly why their youngest daughter had cut them off completely. It has been a few months since that weekend. Alex and Jordan are planning a small, intimate wedding in our backyard, surrounded only by people who truly love them. Jordan has blossomed into a confident, radiant young woman, no longer shaking when she speaks, finally knowing what it feels like to be safe. Looking back, I realize that some people use language to hide who they are, but truth has a voice of its own. It doesn't matter how quietly you whisper your malice, life always finds a way to amplify the truth and deliver justice.